Hi guys, I hope you're well, and in this video I want to discuss my brand new program. Now, you may remember within one of my previous training log videos I actually discussed the training program at the end of the video. However, because I wanted to keep that video relatively short, I didn't really go into the program in too much detail. Therefore, I wanted to really use this standalone video to really go into things in a little bit more detail, and hopefully the goal of this video is really for you to try and learn different principles that you can then apply to your own program. So obviously my program's tailored to me, my weaker body parts, and as such your program should be tailored to you and your weaker body parts as well. So hopefully you can apply some of these principles and start seeing better results with your programming. Notice everything that I'm training 5 days a week and I'm hitting my weaker body parts 3 days a week. So my weaker body parts are delts, back and arms, and as such I'm training them more frequently, and as such throughout the week total volume will be higher. So as discussed before in some other videos, volume is one of the biggest determining factors for influencing muscle growth, and as such I really want to focus on adding more volume to these weaker body parts to try and bring these up more within my next muscle building phase. Now, a couple of things to point out, and discuss the percentage based program shortly, but you'll notice that I've highlighted the arm exercise, the bicep and the tricep exercise, and this is because I'll be supersetting these exercises. Now, for the most part I'm not a huge fan of supersetting exercise. The reason why is, especially if you're supersetting the same body parts, you're not usually as strong. So say if you did a dumbbell chest press and then a dumbbell fly and then return back to dumbbell chest press, you won't be as strong. But by doing opposing muscle groups like biceps and triceps, my biceps will be resting while I'm hitting my triceps and vice versa, and as such strength will be the same and therefore volume will be the same. But the great thing is the time in the gym is much less. So this is a good tip for you, especially with arms, because they're not as draining as well as other body parts. It's a great way to add a lot of volume without actually being in the gym for a long period of time. So something worth considering. Now, a couple of things to point out. You'll notice that as I scroll through here, I'm going to try and scroll slowly so you can kind of get a view of what I'm doing. You'll notice that this final session of the week here, the volume is slightly less, and I'm also doing standing overhead press just for 3 to 5 reps rather than the percentage based program. Now, the main reason for this is on this day, which is a Saturday, I train with a friend and we don't have as much time. We actually play golf in the afternoon. As such, we're limited with time, so the volume is just a little bit less, and that is the main reason for that. If I wasn't doing that, I probably would have a very similar session here. Another thing to point out, you'll notice I'm doing similar exercises within my weaker body part days. I could actually add a little bit more variety, but just remember, as discussed in one of my recent videos, is you really don't want to be changing your exercises too frequently. The reason why is there's actually a learning phase when you transition from one exercise to the next, and as such it actually takes time before you can actually make muscle gains on that particular lift. So therefore, by sticking with similar exercises, I can objectively make progress. I can progressively overload those lifts because I'm training them more frequently, so I can be more objective rather than just randomly changing exercise and not really knowing whether I'm making progress or not. The other thing you'll notice is I'm doing obviously lower body and chest on the same day. Now, the reason why is my chest is aesthetically my stronger body part, and that is why I'm only hitting lower body and chest twice per week. The reality is my lower body could still do with some further development, but at the same time it's still not lagging as much as some of my upper body parts. As such, I'm prioritizing these first within this next muscle building phase. You notice also in terms of frequency, as discussed before, for a natural trainer it's much more optimal to train body parts more frequently. The reason why is twofold. One, we can stimulate muscle protein synthesis more frequently. The second reason is it's just easier to accumulate volume. So rather than, say for example, hitting your chest once a week, there's only so much volume you can actually fit into one session, whereas actually spreading that volume out over the course of the week just allows you to accumulate more volume throughout the week. Additionally, you'll also be stronger as well, because if you're doing, say, just chest in one day, halfway through the session, strength does decrease quite significantly. So by spreading out the volume throughout the week allows you to be stronger as well, because you'll be fresher. by training it multiple times per week rather than just once. The other thing you'll notice, I have more of a quad dominant lower body session and then more of a hamstring dominant. So I still have 3 different exercises: a low bar squat, the quad dominant, barbell Romanian deadlifts, hamstring dominant, and then leg extension. So that's like a 2-to-1 ratio, quad to hamstring. And then on the second lower body day of the week, deadlifts, a hamstring dominant, then a front squat, quad dominant, and then hamstring curls. And in most situations, I wouldn't suggest doing after deadlifting. However, it's important to note that my front squat is an accessory move. My barbell low bar squat is my main fundamental lower body leg exercise. So let's discuss the percentage-based program. So basically, for my accessory work, I'm really hitting very traditional rep ranges, anywhere between 6 to 15 repetitions, very similar to what you've done in the past or what you're doing right now. However, with my main key compound lifts, so standing overhead press, low bar back squat, bench press, and deadlift, I'm using a percentage-based program. The reason why is, as you get more advanced, you can't necessarily progress from session to session. So by using a percentage-based program, it just allows me to progress from month to month, so slowly making progress. The percentage-based program just is set up to progress at a slower rate while still making progress, but it's a great way to train for a advanced trainee, just because you cannot progress as quickly as you could do as an intermediate and a beginner, and the percentage-based program just allows for that. So I'm basically doing a combination program between small off and small off junior. If you type those two into Google, and instead of having that certain lift, say 4 times per week, which is what the program suggests, I'm basically spreading out those reps and sets over the course of a month. Now, in addition to that, I'm actually hitting my bench press twice per week. So whereas the other lifts I'm doing a full cycle, a deload on the 5th week, and then repeating the cycle, I'll obviously finish the bench press cycle after 2 weeks, then I'll deload, then I'll repeat. The other thing I noticed is I've basically manipulated the reps and the sets slightly, and one of the reasons for that was just some of the reps and sets would be so time consuming that I've decided to modify it slightly. So you may have heard of a guy called Matt Ogus who has a big YouTube following. He's done something quite similar, but I'm using the same percentages and also ultimately just rotating through these percentages on a monthly basis, deloading and then repeating. The other point I want to note is, prior to going into this cycle, I'll be working out my 1 rep max. If you go onto Google and just type in 1 rep max calculator, you'll be able to find out your 1 rep max, and then I'm basically plugging into the program 90% of these lifts. This is really key because this basically allows me to make progress over a longer period of time. The other point I want to make is basically once you've finished a full cycle, you're then going to add 5 kilograms to your squat and deadlift and 2.5 kilograms to your bench press and overhead press 1 rep maxes, and then you're going to re-plug in 90% of those lifts into the next month. So you're doing a full cycle, you're then going to have a deload week, you're then going to increase 5 kilograms squat, deadlift, and then 2.5 kilograms to bench press, overhead press, and then recalculate 90% of those figures and then plug that into the next month. The other thing I want to point out is with abdominal training, I basically do abs 1 to 3 times per week at the end of some of my sessions, and it just really depends how I'm doing for time, how I'm feeling. Usually 1 to 3 exercises, but the reality is with regards to ab training, if you're squatting and deadlifting frequently, which I will be on this program, don't need a huge amount of core work. Now, some direct abdominal training definitely has its place, and really depends on how well developed your abdominals are, but the reality is you're going to get a lot of core engagement from those big key lifts. That's pretty much everything. So hopefully this has been useful. The reason why I've shown you this is I really think you can start applying some of these principles. So if you're beyond the intermediate phase, you've got more than, say, 2 years weight training experience, I really suggest hitting your weaker body parts with more frequency. So basically all I'm doing is just having more exercise for these body parts, more total volume, focus on progression over time, focusing on a percentage-based program for one big key fundamental lift, and then my assessment of work is more moderate rep ranges. So hopefully this has been useful, and so thank you very much for watching, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon. Take care.